mention how much I appreciated Steve speaking last week. Thank you so much. You know,
It was a team effort.
well, about it. So today I'm talking about take command. And people ask me, and they have trouble maybe with this philosophy in a lot of ways because things happen and they can be distressing, and folks will say, well, why does that happen if I'm practicing the principles of religious science, and how come bad things happen to good people? And I heard an explanation that seemed so right on to me that I wanted to share with you. So think of a river, maybe the Rio Grande or maybe the Truckee or Colorado River, and think about being in a boat floating down the river. And the river is what it is. There's rough spots and there's growth along the way. And if you're sleeping as you float down the river, you just are at its behest, willy-nilly. And the boat will run into the side of the river bed, or it'll go down the rapids, and you have no control over that because you're asleep. But once you awaken and take command of that boat, then you have some control over how you are traveling down the river. And that's the way that these principles of using the law helps us negotiate the river of life. And the river of life is what it is. But we get to take charge of it and take control of it if we're awake. So I said earlier about how that drive from Las Vegas is so tedious. And one of the reasons that it was so tedious for me is because it's a 2-lane highway and it's got double yellow lines, and you have to pay really close attention to when the yellow line breaks and you have an opportunity to pass. And because I'm kind of short, I can't see that well, and I sort of would have to swing out into the lane and say, oh no, there's something coming. And I was behind a truck thinking that I was going to pass, paying attention to what's the oncoming traffic, paying attention, and I almost missed the Walker Lake with the mountains. Oh my God. It was so beautiful because the mountains were sort of pinky purple. It was that time of day, and they were reflecting on the lake. And it was so beautiful. And I almost missed it. And so that's what I'm talking about. Paying attention, being awake, knowing that the road is what it is, but you get a choice about how you're going to traverse that road, how you're going to travel down the river of life, whether you're going to do it asleep or be awake for it. And yes, life happens. And when life happens, there is a choice. Are you just going to float around asleep, or are you going to wake up and use the law, which is the creative gift of the universe, that what you think is what you get, and you get to choose and take command of your life. Ernest Holmes on page 52. I love this quote because it's just the absolute truth. Before I start that, I'm going to have a drink of water and flop my thing here. That's what I'm going to do. So Ernest Holmes says, if we believe that it will work, it will work. If we believe that it will not work, it really works by appearing to not work. When we believe that it cannot and will not, then according to the principles, it does not. But when it does not, it still does. Only it does according to our belief that it will not. This is our own punishment through the law of cause and effect. We do not enter in because of our doubt and fears. It's not a punishment imposed upon us by the Spirit of God, but an automatic result of failing constructively to use the law of God. When it appears to not, then it is. I love that whole contradiction, and that's the truth. And when I tell you that the law is like a lie detector operator, a lie detector, a polygraph, it knows what you really believe. It cannot be fooled. And so, until you take command of your thinking, until you speak the truth, the law's going to work the way the law works, and it's going to work against you. Just think of a sheet of paraffin that you can make keys out of. So you can use the paraffin, and you can press a key to the jail, or you can press a key to a mansion. The paraffin doesn't care. It does what it does. And it's our choice what the key is that we're going to duplicate in that paraffin or wax. That's how the law works. It doesn't care. It can either make you a jail or it can make you a mansion. Whatever you want. Whatever you ask for. It doesn't care. So there's a belief that we're going to go to war, we're going to take command and go to war, and we use the phrase, ready, aim, fire. In metaphysics, we take it and move it around to say fire, aim, ready. So fire is that deep intention and belief and longing that we have. The fire in the belly. And to use the law, the more we're passionate about what we want, the more we have fire around what we want to create in our lives, the more quickly and rapidly it's going to show up for us. So fire, aim. The aim part is saying our prayer, doing our prayer work, taking the steps necessary to be clear about what we want. Clear about where our boat is going to go. Clear about what the prayer actually is. You know the phrase about be careful what you pray for. There's a cartoon that I just absolutely love. And it's a woman standing in prayer. Oh, please, God, please, please, God, destroy my enemies. And there's this great poof, and she's gone. So being very clear about what we want. around it, being clear about it. Fire, aim, ready. And then, after we've said our prayer, after we've been clear about what we are wanting to create in our lives, because remember, the law doesn't care, then get ready, prepare. And the more fire that you have, the more quickly and rapidly the outcome will be, moving toward that and reminding yourself that it's always in the law. We don't have to repeat the prayer. We can be at rest in it, knowing that when we believe it, we will see it. In Aramaic, the language of Jesus, the word ask is combination. It's like a two-pronged word. It means to claim. So when you ask, you claim it. It's just like going to Kentucky Fried Chicken and ordering chicken, or going to the coat check and claiming your coat. So that's part of it. And then the second part of that Aramaic word is to demand it. So claiming what you want and then demanding what you want. And we have such a cultural resistance to that. We have a cultural resistance to demanding from the universe because we feel like we're going to offend God. God is not offended. God is love. And whatever you ask for, you will receive. That's the law. Now there is a personal quality to God. There is the personal loving essence of God. But what you ask for, what you demand, what you claim, you will receive. That's the law. And you don't need to fear it. You don't need to fear to demand what you want. Life happens. We're all traveling down the river of life. And some people go asleep in their boat and run into all sorts of obstacles. And then other people, just for some serendipitous reason, slowly float down the center of the river without cause of conflict or difficulty. And then some of us sort of bump and stumble down the river, but we're in command of it. We are demanding and using the tools of being awake to make that journey in an easier, more peaceful way. So there's another little phrase that I like, and I'm not sure where this came from, so I can't attribute it to anybody necessarily. It was one of those things floating around in my computer. But it says, even in the apparent absence of harmony, there is harmony. Even in the apparent absence of harmony, there is harmony. So we can get wrought up about what's going on in our country and the politics and the yada, 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 and because of that loving aspect of God, there is harmony underneath it. Even in the apparent absence of harmony, there is harmony. Even in the apparent absence of order, there is order. Even in the apparent absence of support, there is support. Even in the apparent absence of clarity, there is clarity. Even in the apparent absence of love, So while we can take command of our lives, there is a loving harmony throughout. The river is going to keep moving, and the river of life is going to ultimately come to the greater destination. And even when there looks like there's white water, even when there looks like there's wild beasts alongside the river, even then there is the harmony and the peace and the joy and the beauty of traveling down the river of life. So our job is for us to wake up, take command of what we're thinking, take command of what we want, and remember that if we believe that it's not working, it is working to not work. It always is working. It is always in harmony. It is always moving. It is always going to be all right. Even in the appearance of disharmony, there is harmony. Even in the appearance of discord, there is harmony. So our job is to figure out how we're going to travel down the river of life, where we're going to go, what's it going to look like when we get there, and trust the law to take us exactly to our destination. So I am so glad to be home with you all. I love you so much, each one of you. Namaste. So I would invite the practitioners to stand and join with me as we hold this congregation in love and know the truth for them. There is that glorious, reflective quality that shows up in so many different ways as lessons to us. The reflection of that grand mountain and that still, quiet lake. The phenomena of echoes in the mountain. Knowing that as I call out, as I cry out, it comes back to me. Knowing that it is a reciprocal universe. That what I put out is what I get back. And knowing that even in the appearance of lack of love, there is love. It is not an either-or universe. God is love. And that portion of the universe, that is what we call the law, is reflective, non-judgmental. And what we deepest reaches of our being, expect is what comes back to us. So at this time, in this moment, I raise my consciousness. I awaken to expect the highest and best for each one of us, to claim and demand and command goodness for each essence that I call forth longingly into my life. I know that it is returning to me. And as that's true for me, I call it forth for you. I call dynamic, vital, vigorous good health. I call peace and harmony. I call abundance and joy and laughter. I call relationships that are harmonious. Whatever you need is flowing to you right this moment. It cannot be otherwise. And so in joy, in absolute faith and knowing, I trust all is well in each of our lives, for those that are with us today and those that are a part of this community and are away from us. All is well. We're awake. And I give thanks for that. And with great expectation, I stand back, expecting miracles to show up in every way. And so I invite you to join with me as we expect miracles by saying, and so it is.